We're here today to talk to Ryan Henshaw about CVs. So Ryan, what do we need to think about when we're putting together our CVs?
Chris, we need to remember that the sole purpose of a CV is to gain an interview or meeting with a potential employer. We at Herringbone Search focus on sales individuals, and we look for specific points that will help us to determine whether we want to take the application any further.
And what are those specific points?
So to make it easy, we've broken them down into 3 specific points. The first being layout.
Right.
So just like meeting a person for the first time, first impressions really count. What we're struck by visually will entice us to then read the content. With relation to content, consistency is key. Looking at making sure that you're using the same font, type, capital letters where necessary. Very important also is grammar and spelling is key.
And so that's consistency throughout the document so that it looks clean and simple, yeah?
Yeah.
Isn't that all a bit obvious though?
Yeah, it does sound obvious, Chris, but you'd be surprised at the amount of people that don't get this right. So when putting your CV together, don't be complacent.
Okay,
Exactly.
so that's the first point. And what would the second point be?
The second is content, and specifically your employment history and education. And within each of these specific points, you need to make sure that you have the institution or place of work where you worked, the dates, and then the course that you studied or your job title.
What if you have any gaps in those periods?
Yeah, so we're allowed to have gaps, and you're allowed to have times in your life where you've done something different. You just need to make sure that those are accounted for. Otherwise it gets people thinking about what it is you were actually doing.
Okay, that's fine. So that's the first 2 points. You mentioned formatting and consistency. The second point being making sure you've got your history clear and simple. And what's the third point?
So thirdly, and this is what really differentiates you, is a list of achievements. So within each part, either education or employment history, make sure you list achievements, make sure that they are relevant, and you include timeframes, specific timeframes. Okay,
so say that I was, I don't know, head of the Boy Scouts back in 1971. Would that be of interest or worth putting in?
Well, that is impressive because it gives a bit of a flavour about you, but 1971 was a long time ago. So I would say that it's not relevant. You want to keep it, you want to keep those as recent as possible, and your most recent achievements are probably definitely what are most important to us.
So can we pull all that together? What are the things we should be remembering then?
We can. So if you take it from step to step, make sure that your CV is visually good. If it's visually good, that entices us to read the content. Make sure that you are consistent with your employment history and education, making sure that you're not missing out any dates. And to finalise, make sure that your achievements are in there, because that's what actually will get you the meeting in the end.
And how do you get involved in this process? Do you help people with their CVs?
We do definitely help people with their CVs, but the onus is definitely on the individual to make sure they get their CV right, because that does make it that much easier for us if we see a good CV. Because
if they can convince you that their CV is worth looking at, then you might be able to convince the potential employer that the CV is worth looking at as well.
You're exactly right, Chris.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Ryan. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.